Hi everyone, this is Eero from VAHVA Fitness, and in this video we're going to cover 6 different exercises for strength, endurance and conditioning. You probably know strength and mobility are one of the most important attributes that a muscle can have, and they really laid the foundation for basically optimal physical development. But there are many other attributes for the muscles as well, and one of these is the endurance. This is something that you really need to develop sort of separately. The work capacity, building up the work capacity doesn't come by itself. We need to do specific training for it and modify our training so that we start to build more endurance. So let's go to our first exercise, which is the lizard climber. Many of you probably know the exercise called the mountain climber, where you are moving the legs very fastly. So in this exercise, not only are we moving the legs, we are also adding a little jump between every repetition or every step, and we're also moving the arms. This exercise heavily emphasizes the explosiveness from the shoulders, and there's also the explosive hip flexion and hip extension. The idea is that you make small jumps, and as fast as you can, you switch the place of the arms and the legs. This not only develops explosiveness, but in the landing phase, there's a very high demand for this core stabilization and also for shoulder stabilization. You need to have a good basically your lower back cannot start arching and sagging, and your shoulder can't raise your ears. You need to keep a very stable and stiff position with every sort of step that you're taking in this exercise. The serratus, the chest, the lats all need to be active to support the shoulder, and your abdominals need to be constantly supporting in order to maintain this smooth, fluid and fast movement. In the start, you can adjust the difficulty by doing this a bit slower, focusing on making a slightly bit higher jump, and that way from there you can progress on the more faster and faster execution. So there are 2 versions of this exercise. They're a bit different regarding the coordination. In the other one, you're moving the opposite leg, opposite arm forward, and in the other version, you're moving basically the same side arm and leg to same direction. Our second conditioning exercise is the Flea hop, and this is also an explosive exercise. It's somewhat similar that it works. It focuses on the anterior side of the body, the core, shoulders, our hip flexors. The difference is just that we're really going into that small, like tucking the legs. And what this does, for example, when you do this exercise, we'll notice your triceps, because of the elbow flexion and extension, your triceps are going to get more active. And at the same time, the quadriceps as well are pushing you when you extend or straighten out your body. So this exercise works both the core explosiveness when you're getting really small, and then when you're extending and you're landing, you need to have that core stability to support the spine. So there are the 2 versions. The one is with the tucked body very low, and the other one is where you basically jump into that pike position. Now this is obviously work also the flexibility, but this emphasizes the core even more because we are not bending. We're keeping the arms like relatively straight, legs as well, trying to keep them as straight as possible. So what this means, if you know an exercise called jackknife, for example, where you do that explosive sort of bending from the waist, we do a bit similar in this one, but with the jump from that plank position. So heavily works explosiveness in the core, and at the same time the sort of support from the shoulders and core when you land. Our third exercise here is the leaning push-up, and this also has those 2 different variations. And so what you do in this exercise is that we are leaning back, we're tucking the legs, and we are flexing, we are basically opening up our shoulders to transfer that body back. And from there we start leaning as low as we can forward as far as we can, without keeping the body in the air and without knees touching the floor. So this exercise can be extremely demanding. It depends a bit like how high you keep your body and how far you lean forward. So you can obviously adjust this by keeping yourself a bit higher and not going as far forward. And the second version is also one where you actually go high, then you lower, and then you again go high and lower back. And this is an overall shoulder strengthening and shoulder builder exercise. When you're doing this exercise, it's crucial that you understand a bit of the shoulder stability, and I explained in the antagonist activation principle video about how you stabilize, for example, with the back muscles in the push-up, and I suggest watching the video to better get the idea. But so what I'm doing here when I move the arms here, you need to really hard use your back muscles, the traps, to guide those arms next to your body and tighten them up, and from that position you can actually start also better activate your chest, your shoulders, serratus for a very safe movement, because there's a big range in this exercise, places a lot of stress in this area, so we want to take this stress to our muscles, not to our joints. So we want to kind of start this exercise, because this exercise can be done faster. We want to start it slow and gain that control in that whole shoulder girdle area in order to do it well. So this exercise is obviously much different compared to the other two exercises, the lizard climber and the Flea hop, in it that it's not really that explosive, it's more of a strength builder. But regarding building the strength endurance, you need to do both type of exercises, not only just explosive but also a bit slower exercises for the strength as well. So if you want to be a well-rounded, you want to be a complete functional athlete, then you need to do some type of endurance conditioning as part of your training as well, and perhaps not just jogging and running. But basically you can use almost any exercise for this conditioning, because what makes the difference is how we use these exercises. And for these endurance purposes we can use many different exercises, but we're going to keep always the rest periods minimal. And what we strive to do is we strive to maintain the pace and the performance for as long as we can. So minimal rest and longer periods of time, which usually means that the intensity per exercise can't be so much. So if you're doing exercise with weights, you need to use lighter weights, for example. Or you need to, if you do exercises, calisthenic exercises, you need to do a bit easier versions of those exercises to keep up the training going for a long period of time. But so the exercises in this video are sort of body weight / movement drills. I wouldn't call them exactly movement training because they are not, but they are similar in a way that they work multiple areas in the body. They also work the coordination, full body control and coordination. And this is one of those reasons why I tend to prefer movement training compared to traditional training in this endurance, because it targets so many areas in the body at once, and I have found this to be extremely tough and extremely effective. For example, the Movement Training course has flow routines for this exact purpose, to build up strength, muscular endurance, and to also work on the full body coordination and control. So understand the strength, performance, they're much more than just lifting heavy or developing fancy skills. You need to have the raw endurance and work capacity to maintain that performance for a longer period of time. And this way you'll become a much more well-rounded athlete and a mover. Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.